Our word today is legacy. Wow, have I got a fun bunch of stuff to show you of the legacy that my mother left me. Everyone can leave a legacy. It can be money, it can be papers, special papers, property of some kind of like this farmette, or it could be things. My mother left all of the above because she just knew how to be special in people's lives. And I know a lot of you out there are the same way. So I'm going to show you three of the things that she left me in particular. And of course, they belong to all of the family, but I have the pleasure of keeping them. And the first one is this little cat doll. Isn't she precious? It is just little feathers and just just a beautiful little it's china. It's glass and sits on a little pedestal. And I don't think my mother ever named it, but it was one of her special ones because she loved cats in particular too. And this is one of my favorites too because it is unique. I love kitties. And well, I'll show you my cat one of these days. His name is Blackie. But this little thing was so precious to her. She always had it on display, and I keep it on display now in the guest bedroom. So if you come to visit me, you're going to find a room full of dolls and different little things that my mother left as a legacy. And another one of her very special little gifts was this little doll. It's a little china doll, little china face and little china hands and little feet and a little rag doll body, but a beautiful little dress. I think my mother made it. I won't swear to that because she just loved to sew. But isn't that a precious little doll also? Just such a cute little thing. It makes me think of my mother because she was old fashioned. Maybe your mother was old fashioned too. And then the next one is this cute little guy, a little granny doll. She made this. It was a piece of fabric that came. All you had to do was cut it out of the fabric, cut the pictures of the dress and the face and all that. And then you made the little doll. And she put it in a little chair. Isn't that adorable? Her little granny doll. And she made one just for me. And now I have two of them, hers and mine. So let's talk about legacy. What have you left for your family, your children, your grandchildren, perhaps even great grandchildren, nieces and nephews, and all of those wonderful children that might be in your life right now? Because if you're like most of us silver citizens, we do love the younger generation because they keep us young. My nephew's daughter in particular has been keeping me young. She's now all of 9 and so grown up. It's amazing. They just grow up so fast these days. At 9, I was still a little kid. I was still a little kid at 13. It was in my 20s before I finally grew up, if you will. And I never have really grown up. Don't want to grow up. Maybe someday later, lots later. But in the meantime, having fun in your life is what it's all about. Maybe not for everyone, but for some of us, we don't do anything nowadays if it's not fun. We have that luxury. Have you given yourself permission to have that luxury to just do what you enjoy, what brings you pleasure, brings you joy? I hope you have, because this is the time to do it now when you have this time to yourself. A lot of people dread this age because the children are long gone. The grandchildren may live in another state, for heaven's sakes, because that's the society now is so mobile. But if your children live nearby, keep them close to you and watch them grow up and nourish them and help to guide them. I do a lot of guiding for my little niece. because sometimes parents don't always have time, and the older people in the children's lives have that time. And I think I'm more of a grandmother to her than I am an auntie, but I try to help guide her in growing up responsibly, growing up with good values, growing up with fun. One of the fun things we used to do when she was a little younger, she loved to play soccer. And we were out in the yard one day kicking her little ball around in the yard. And, at my age, it's like 2 or 3 years ago, I was in my mid 70s at that point. And she says, "Oh, let's go play. Can you run?" And I kind of looked at her. Not really. "Well, can you walk real fast?" I said, "Yeah." So we walked real fast and played soccer out in her front yard. But these are memories that they're going to remember of silly things like that. So even if you can't run and you can't play games like we used to, try to be part of their lives in other ways. I like to teach her how to work. And that's one of the things that she doesn't take too kindly to. And I don't guess I did when I was a kid either. But having been brought up on a farm, we had responsibilities. We had chickens to feed. Every night it was my job to go out and close the chicken house door so that the chickens would be safe at night from foxes or any other intruder that might get in the hen house and eat the chickens. So I did that every night. I remember one night when we first moved to the farm, I was 6 when we moved out there. And I'm walking past the pump house to get to the chicken house. And there's this big old black snake right in my path. And I ran back to the house and screaming, "Daddy, there's a snake out in the chicken yard." And bless his heart, he got the shovel and he went with me and he killed that black snake. And much later, like the next day, he was so sorry that he had done that. And I wasn't sure why. So I said, why are you sorry you killed the snake? And he says, "Because black snakes are good snakes. They're not poisonous, and they help to keep down the rat population and the mice, different rodents that live in and around a farm and the barn and all that kind of stuff, the buildings." And he was very sorry that he had killed that black snake. And that's how I learned compassion. I have been known to catch different bugs that get into this house. Because living out in the country, you've got bugs of all kinds, even little lizards, the camellias get in. The cats bring them in occasionally, and they get loose. And I do everything I can to catch them and put them back outside because, hey, I'm in their place. This is their land. They were here before I moved in. But sometimes it's unavoidable that you have to squash them or they get away from you and eventually they die because you can't find them anymore. But I try to have that compassion that my dad showed me when I was young. So maybe you have a story like that too. But these are different legacies that your parents, your grandparents can leave you. So think about it right now. What have you got that you could leave as a legacy for your children and grandchildren and nieces and nephews? Do you have a collection of some sort? One of my grandmother's most prized possessions was blue pitchers. They were all this big. Some were this big, some were that big, and some were a little bigger. But she had this little corner bracket, and it was a beautiful little piece of furniture. And it just fit perfectly in the corner. And she had all these little blue pictures on that rack, different sizes, different colors, all blue. Every one of them were blue. And she left that to me. I think I was the only one that wanted it, frankly, because my sister wasn't into that kind of thing. Of course, my brother was definitely not into it, but I wanted those little blue pictures, and she gave them to me. I still have them in the guest bedroom on that same corner bracket. That's my legacy. And I don't know who I'm going to leave it to because I don't think my little niece is into blue pictures, frankly. So, and it's okay because it may be the end of another era that there's going to be different legacies for her niece, the niece, for her to be leaving to her children. But things do come around. They go back and then they come around again. So the blue pictures may end up in a garage sale. I would hope not, but it's okay if they do because I've enjoyed them and loved them all my years that I've had them and before I even got them. And that's why I ask for them. And different things that we can leave our families, our great grandchildren, even if you are so fortunate to have great grandchildren. Think about it. You could even write your autobiography. You have a wonderful story. And if you have the gift of writing and storytelling, write it down or get on your computer. If you're into the computer, they have programs that you could just speak your story and it types it for you. Are you ready for that? It types it for you as you speak. Now, they're not perfect, but they give you the gist of it, and then you go back and edit it. And you can tell a period or exclamation point, new paragraph, things like that. But if you just want to start talking, you can go back and make the paragraphs and add the punctuation, correct the words that it maybe didn't spell properly or didn't make sense. Sometimes your sentences don't make sense because it's not sure what you said. But it is a marvelous way to leave another type of legacy. I really wish I had had the legacy of my grandparents, both sets, because they led extraordinarily hard lives growing up, especially. My grandfather was 10 when he immigrated from Ireland on a boat all by himself. And he didn't go back to Ireland until he was an old man in his 70s. And then he went back to visit his family. But he made a new life at the age of 10. I can't even fathom the idea of getting on a boat at the age of 10 and leaving my home, leaving my country, going to a foreign land. That takes courage. And at that time, I didn't understand that because I'd never really heard much of the story because he wasn't a storyteller. In fact, he was one of those stiff people who didn't know how to emotionally love. He didn't get grown up right. He was just 10 when he had to leave home. So I was always a little bit afraid of him because I didn't know how to respond to him, how to love him, how to talk to him. I didn't even know how to talk to him. So maybe you had some of that. But just think of what the story is that he could have left me and my siblings and their families. So if you are of a mind, write your autobiography and then make a second one for your married life autobiography. 2 books and put them on Amazon. Hey, they might become bestsellers. You never know. But things like that make the most wonderful legacies, personal things. That's why I cherish her dolls, my mother's dolls. And she had other things that she left me and my sister. She left fabric to my sister because she took after her, my mother, as a seamstress. I never took to it as well. I had other talents, if you will, but she left fabric. She left different things, sewing machines, if you will. She left a Singer sewing machine. If anybody remembers the little black Singer sewing machine, I actually have 2 of them in the cases. They haven't been opened now in years because I don't sew anymore. And it's okay. I still cherish them. They were a legacy. See what I mean? Some of the most simple things can be a legacy that you can leave your family. So think of something else that might be a legacy. It could be a piece of artwork that maybe your grandmother painted or drew, and it's been on your wall forever and ever. Here's a fun little thing about my mother. There were different things in this house when she got older that she wrote down in her address book, of all places, who she was leaving different things to. It was so fun. And if we found something in the house that we wanted, can you add this to my list? And she would. And then when the time came, we divided things up that were in that book and we got them. And I've been doing that for my niece since I don't have children. My niece has spotted several things in this house that she wants, and they are left to her. If they will, I haven't written them down yet because she knows exactly what they are, and she'll know when the time comes. Since I've only got one little niece now that is living next door to me, so she's got different things spotted that she wants for her legacy. And you might ask your children and grandchildren, is there anything special here in the house that you would like for me to leave to you? Because you can write that down. You can put it in a formal will if you want. So and so gets such and such. But it's a fun thing to leave your children and grandchildren a legacy of some sort. Get creative. Maybe make something with their name on it. Like if you're into sewing, you could embroider their name on a special thing, special piece of fabric, maybe, and hang it on the wall and have that as a legacy for when you're gone. And it makes the children more appreciate you because you thought of them and it was special to them. And they'll treasure it for many years to come, don't you think? So just think about it for yourself. What is it that you've got in your home that you could leave as a legacy? And then write it down and be sure you tell your children too where you wrote it down, where they can find it, or put it in your will in a formal page, a handwritten page. You just add it to your will and sign it and date it. I want so and so to get such and such, and make it just a precious gift that you can give to your family. So that's our story for today, and I'll see you on down the road. Thanks for coming. Bye for now.